Oh, the click is in there. Here.
All right, we'll get started. We have two public hearings tonight. The first one will be the Dollar General. A public hearing before the ZBA of the Town of Sullivan will be held on Thursday, November 11th, to consider the application of Chenango Dollar General LLC for property located at SBL 48.-1-28.11 for property located at 1458 Route 5 West for an area variance proposing 36 parking spaces only when 109 are required. The above application is open for inspection of the Town of Sullivan office building during regular business hours. Persons wishing to appear at such a hearing may do so by person, attorney, or other representative. All right, I think we have some representatives from the Dollar General. If you guys would like to come up here and introduce yourselves and tell us what you have proposed.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is John Masternardi.
I think you could maybe turn it a little bit. Tell me when you can't say it, Brian.
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, that way both people. Yep. Okay.
Good evening. My name is John Masternardi. I'm with Griffiths Engineering here to represent the Dollar General store at New York State Route 5. Just to give you a little background on the project, the owner's proposing to build a 10,640 square foot Dollar General, and that's located approximately in the center of this 2.08 acre parcel. So the site access to this parcel will be from New York State Route 5. You see the entrance here. And there'll be only one access, egress, ingress. And and so we're here before you tonight. We are proposing 36 parking spaces. The town of Sullivan zoning requires 109. There's a couple of reasons we're requesting that reduction in parking. And if I could, I'd like to read a letter into the record. And this is from the staff at Dollar General. It says, through the years, Dollar General has refined the design criteria for new store development. With over 17,000 stores in productive operation, we have gathered significant data. One area in which we are balanced between development costs and customer need is parking requirements and accessibility for our build-to-suit location. Our stores average 15 to 20 transactions per hour. We have estimated and confirmed that 36 spaces will accommodate the customer flow rate that our business generates. This standard has also been sufficient for traffic generated at the peak Christmas season levels. Another item too I wanted to bring to the board's attention. This is from the New York State Stormwater Design Manual. So this project, if it moves forward, will require a stormwater pollution prevention plan in order to gain permit coverage to New York DEC. So following New York State DEC's guidelines, Chapter 3 is called Stormwater Management. Section 3.2 is Green Infrastructure for Stormwater Management. And one of the items is they request that you provide a reduction of impervious surfaces where possible. And one of the items they have 6 items listed, but the one that pertains to this project is to reduce imperviousness on parking lots by eliminating unneeded spaces, providing compact car spaces and efficient parking lanes, and minimizing stall dimensions. So those are the items I just wanted to explain why our request is, again, from that reduction from 109 to 36.
Does the board have any questions?
My biggest concern with a reduction that's that significant in scope, one of the questions that we go through when we look at area variances is whether the variance being sought is substantial. When you're talking about a 60 to 70% relief from the zoning code, that's a pretty substantial reduction. The parking lot across the street amasses an enormous amount of snow. When you drive past it in the summer, it looks like a ridiculous parking lot for what's there, particularly the tops parking section. When you drive through it during the winter, you see 2 rows taken up completely by snowbanks. When I look at the size of the lot that you have there, and I think about a busy holiday season, where are you going to put the snow?
Well, we have the area of snow storage over along this side of the building, or on the side of the parking lot rather. So that would be significant. I mean, that would be substantial amount of snow in that large lot, but this lot is much smaller, so we definitely have the area to put that.
But when we get a heavy snow, you're probably going to eliminate that entire back row of parking spaces.
Well, our intent is to remove the snow off the parking lot entirely and place it in this lawn area.
But as soon as a loader gets off that pavement, it'll get stuck.
Yeah, this is not Tennessee. We get feet, not inches.
So my name is Jason Lang. I'm with the developer of the site. We can provide snow storage areas, but generally with these Dollar General's company develops these all over the country. Generally with the 15 to 20 transactions an hour, you're never going to have all of those folks coming to the store at once. We've studied our sites in other states. Generally, every time you drive by a Dollar General parking lot, there's roughly about 9 to 12 cars. I understand, do a lot of work up in this area. I understand the issue about snow. We could provide some additional parking along this area, but I can tell you that the 36 is what we need, and we're not going to really need any more than that. The busiest store that I've ever studied has been at the beach in New Jersey. No more than 27 cars in that parking lot at one time, and that was in the height of the summer season. We could provide additional parking. It's not a matter of fitting it on the site, because I would agree with everybody on the board that we do probably have enough room. No one's ever going to use 109 spaces. 35, 36 is generally our sweet spot when it comes to developing these sites. If snow storage is a concern, which it generally is up here, I understand. We can provide some more parking spaces, but we're just adding pavement to store snow.
Could you slide the whole building, if you will, to the east? Yep, slide it, yeah. That would give you at least another row of parking and or potential snow storage space.
So moving that, if we want to move the building to the east,
yep,
we're essentially now going to have to add another drive aisle. So moving that isn't just going to add another row of parking, because right now we've got a double load, so we'd have to add another road somewhere. And again, we're just adding pavement to add parking, which then drives up our stormwater.
Well, there's a couple of things. With the snow where you want to store it right there, that wind predominantly, especially down that roadway, is gonna fly west to east. So when you pile it right there, it's gonna blow it back into the parking lot. That's just what it does. Okay. So be aware of that. Secondly, the problem isn't necessarily the 36, which my only note here is how, because in the letter from Dollar General it says that they have estimated and confirmed. How? Do you have data behind that? Hold on.
I'm sorry.
And then thirdly is, to Mike's point, it's the percentage that's the problem. Because if we grant a variance on the code at a 66% allowance, that is incredibly substantial, and it sets a precedent where now suddenly 8 and 10 foot fences, which sounds like a trivial thing, but now we've got a precedent to allow that type of a variance on top of our existing code. So that, for me, those are my three rubs. I I see you've got the space, and I see here that you're gonna have septic underneath it, but a west wind's gonna blow that back in the parking lot. I'd love to know where the estimate and the confirmed, specifically the confirmed, that's strong language, where that comes from. And then, quite frankly, the 70% variance is a lot.
So I can answer that. Generally, they only want really 30 spaces, and that's what they asked us to get. I've studied my sites that I've developed in New Jersey, and I can provide you with those parking studies that confirms that the 27 that I mentioned, and there's a number of sites, probably close to 20 to 25 sites that we've done, that you'll see that it's never going to be above 30. The 36 is what we proposed on this site. That's why I said that number would meet what their standard was. Their standard actually is 30. So, but I understand precedent, what you want to do moving forward on that. So I get it.
Are those stores in New Jersey on highly trafficked roads
Yes, sir. Yes.
like that?
Even busier. I would say they're busier.
Okay.
I might be able to go along, well, I shouldn't quite say that, with the 36. I go in by the Dollar General, because we knew for the last month that, we were going to be talking about this, and I go by the Dollar General, 2 or 3 times a day, and been counting the cars, and I've had 17 or 18, probably 7 or 8 times, but that's the most I ever had. But the other thing is does it impact the character of the neighborhood? And what I really dislike is the 3 businesses that are on that side of the road. They have 50 feet of lawn, a nice, really nicely landscaped, plenty of room. Now we're putting a building and parking lot right on top of the road. I would like to see more green space. And I think, because you're short of space, you're cramming everything right to the road. And I think you're adversely affecting the character of the neighborhood. Because like I said, the 3 office buildings that are right there have really nice, appealing landscapes and plenty of lawn before it. And now we're throwing this parking lot right on the road. I mean, I don't know what you have plans between the building and the Route 5 there. Because down here, downtown, you just, the Dollar General just threw some rocks down on the ground.
Well, I mean,
And I don't want Chenango to look like that.
I understand, and we would, provide landscaping along there. We could shift the one drive aisle probably a little bit further back, so it's not on top of the road. But our intent would be to provide landscaping between the building and Route 5. Yes.
I guess I question that with the amount of feet in the drainage ditch that you have there.
Well, how far are we off the road right now, John?
It's probably 30 feet.
And you got a drainage ditch there.
Correct.
So it leaves about 17 feet from the property line back to the building. Start for landscape area.
One of the things that we're trying to do as a community overall is encourage people when they're designing their properties to have less parking lot facing the road, more green space facing the road. We just did a master plan on Route 31 out in Bridgeport, and that's first and foremost what we're trying to do is not feature parking lots. So that's a major concern.
Understood.
What's the intention for the trucks coming in to load in and load out? What path do you intend them to take?
So we've actually studied it with a software for truck turning movements, and the truck would pull in off the 5 and then pull up this unload aisle and then back into this spot here.
Better be a good truck driver.
That drive aisle is wide enough where they can make that. And that tractor trailer truck is once a week.
But you have multiple other trucks. 'Cause that's the other thing I noticed down the Dollar General. A lot of times, like when the Dorito truck or another truck comes, they park and take 3 or 4 parking places to unload.
The DOT guys.
Where will the box truck load to the same dock, or will the box trucks load in the front?
With this scenario, they probably do either. Probably it'll be easier for them to go to the back. That's where the storeroom is.
Yes, sir.
Steve, it is a 300-foot business zone.
Okay, thank you.
I can speak firsthand for the store out in Bridgeport. The parking lot is grossly underspaced. It's always overflowed, it's always a traffic jam out there. There's not nearly enough parking space in Bridgeport, which is where I live. It's not in Madison County, but it's real close.
How many spaces are there?
I'm gonna say there's 4 or 5
39,
cars.
I counted them.
39?
Yeah, and that might not be quite accurate because I might have counted the space in between the handicap spot, which is only at another couple. But they have spaces all the way around back. The store in Chenango's got 39 also, so. But I do agree with you, the front of that is busy. People could park out back, but they don't want to.
Right, yeah.
Do you have copies of those DOT regulations and the stormwater runoff, the things that you were citing?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to provide those to the board so we can see and read those as well?
How far to the east do you guys own?
There's
Is it a lot?
a lot of space.
About 500 feet.
If they
Yeah.
slide the whole thing to the east, then they get another room for another row of parking in there.
So just to give you a perspective, this property line from this corner to this corner is 541 feet approximate.
Have you guys been in front of the planning board at all yet for this? Not yet.
I believe we have been, not myself, but somebody else from my office has been.
Just to talk about the concept, not any detail.
You haven't gone through anything with the
That's
planning
correct.
board about
No.
what they're gonna require?
So generally, if the parking variance isn't granted, then the site would essentially die.
Yep. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this application? Please stand and state your name and your concern. Does the board have any further questions?
So if we grant a variance, but it's not as steep of a variance as you guys are seeking, then you guys have to go in front of the planning board and make modifications to the design that you have there if you don't think it's feasible.
It depends on what that variance
Right.
is.
Okay, I'll close this public hearing. We have 60 days to come up with a decision. We'll discuss it later tonight. We may or may not have a decision tonight, but like I said, we do have 60 days to make a decision.
Does the board want to request any additional information from the applicant?
Yeah, I'd like to see the
Copies of the letter from the DOT and DEC.
Yeah, I'd like to see those reports for what your constraints are and what they're requiring from you, and I'd like to see the traffic
Yep.
data that you were citing earlier on the confirmed language in the letter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not to disagree with Brian, but is it really of our concern, or are we really supposed to just be looking at the variance for the parking spaces? You follow me?
You're supposed to be, but I think one of their arguments is that the lower the parking spots, the more beneficial the stormwater
Okay.
is. So that's, I think they're trying to say that's a justification for the variance. And also I think Brian's asking for data from other stores which shows that this is the standard parking arrangement for a Dollar General. So
Exactly.
Okay. Can I ask one question?
Mhm.
Is there a number that you guys would like to see, or is that gonna be?
Something, I guess, yeah, a number that would make you feel more comfortable.
I think number would probably be in the decision.
Yeah, that's something we would discuss
Discuss.
later on, yes. All right, well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, our second hearing tonight, a public hearing before the ZBA of the town of Sullivan will be held on Thursday, November 11th, to consider the application of Mark Shampoo, SBL 5.78-1-27 for property located at 2449 Wilson Point Road for an area variance to allow a 6 or 8 foot privacy fence on the right side of his property than is permitted under the current zoning laws of the town of Sullivan. The above application is open for inspection at the Town of Sullivan office building during regular business hours. Persons wishing to prepare such a hearing may do so by person, attorney, or other representative. Mark, if you're here, if you want to come up and tell us what you have proposed.
This letter of intent is in support of my request for a variance to the side yard between 2449 and 2451 Wilson Point Road for a 6 to 8 foot tall fence installation. Until exclusion, security, and property value for 2449 Wilson Point Road since our purchase of the property in 2016 and a previous owner who initially installed the trees. The property owner of 2451 Wilson Point Road, during short stay on the premises, removed tree branches causing significant damage to the tree line. It may be noted that the properties of 2451 and 2453 are not inhabited by full-time residents. The previous mentioned properties are the last two homes on a dead-end street and are overgrown with vegetation and a breeding ground for rodents and snakes. With the wide open spaces it creates, unobstructed view into each party's homes and compromised privacy. The existing tree line provided a natural visual barrier, significantly hiding unmaintained properties from view. Since the trees have been severely compromised, they will not naturally repair themselves. The proposed 6 to 8 foot tall fence would be an improvement to the irreversible damage done to the trees and obstruct the view of the unmaintained property while providing security from the dead-end street of the unoccupied properties.
And you're proposing the fence to be how long, starting from where, going to where roughly?
Approximately 36 feet.
And like down to the water's edge, how far from?
Oh no, it would be probably 60, 70 feet from water's edge.
And basically to where the trees weren't cut down, you know,
This,
yeah.
this is the section he's looking at, and then sort of. Hold on, I've got a picture here.
Would the it's listed as the back of the property, because that's the back of the property hits Wilson Point Road. Would the back of the fence be beyond the sight line of that shed that you've got at the back of the house?
My shed?
Yeah. Meaning, would there be would the fence as it pushes towards the road, would the fence be any type of sightline obstruction for anybody coming from those last two houses as they come that way? So they're in no danger of not seeing anybody coming out of your driveway.
No, I don't even think the fence is going to the end of my house, the back side of my house,
Okay.
towards the road.
Okay. All right.
So looking at this, so some of this, you're not replacing the entire wall of trees with fence, you're replacing a section of the tree.
The section that's wide open, yes.
Okay.
Are you removing those trees, or are they staying there and
They're
you're putting,
staying there
they're just staying there and you're putting the fence on your side of
on
that
my
tree line?
side.
So basically,
There would be at least 2 foot of property behind the fence to my boundary line.
Till you hit your property line. Right.
So are the trees right on the line?
Yes, they're right on the line.
is this roughly where you're proposing the fence? I just drew an imaginary line, like about there, going to maybe there, I don't know where. 'Cause you got the one.
This is a gazebo.
Right, so does it start at the front of
I would say right about there.
to know how
No,
far?
not even,
To the
probably
back?
to the middle of the gazebo.
Okay. All right, thank you. Board have any more questions?
Yeah, it'd be nice to know the middle of the gazebo, that's quite a bit farther toward the lake than this diagram is.
Let's see, this picture shows it pretty clear. Here's the gazebo.
But that doesn't match up with this one, because the gazebo's here, here, whatever.
Yeah, no, yeah, okay, the gazebo's.
And this is from here,
Okay.
the gazebo's here, so that's, I'm
Yeah, yes,
confused.
yeah.
I don't want it any closer to the lake than,
This is the proper orientation of the Murat cliff.
yeah.
The property, the hedgerow.
I've been down there,
Yeah.
I saw it, yep,
Okay, and here is where all the arborvitae's were
yep.
cut out.
And it was more like right here, and he's saying he might go up to the middle of that gazebo, that's too far for me.
Yeah,
I
I can keep it before the gazebo line.
And I think it'd have to be marked before I could make a decision on it.
Okay, but we certainly do.
I'm not trying to give you a hard.
Is there anyone here to speak for or against this application? Please stand and state your concern, state your name and your concern.
My name is Pauline Evely. My husband and I live at 2451 Wilson Point Road. This fence that he's proposing, 6 to 8 feet tall, would destroy property values and also be obtrusively noticeable, undesirable, and unwelcome. Also, the trees he's talking about, they are planted already 1 foot into his property. So I do not see how he can put a fence on the right side of his trees, because they're already 1 foot in. And all we've done when we trim the trees is trim all but 1 foot in, because they're all on our side. He had a sheriff come over. The sheriff said we were in our rights to trim the trees. Anything on your side of the property, you have the right to trim, and that's what we did. In the beginning, the trees are planted right on the line, not by him, by the previous owners. And those trees have grown so much now that we've lost quite a bit of land, because they're big. But the trees that he's talking about are 1 foot into his property. So I don't see how a fence could be 1 foot into his property. It would have to be behind those trees, not in front of them, on our side of the fence.
Right, I mean, if he does get approval, or they do it, the fence does have to be a foot off the property line.
Right, but the trees are already there, so how could, he can't do that?
I don't know what his plans are. I haven't asked him whether he plans on taking the trees down and putting the fence 3 feet off the property line. I don't
Well,
know.
he said he wasn't going to take the trees down,
Okay,
because he would have to actually cut them right to the ground to put a fence on his property, not on our side.
You were gonna
His
put the
property.
fence
Well,
toward your house.
You
though,
just stated the
from
fence
those
is gonna, the
trees.
fence is gonna be essentially in between his house and the trees.
So
you-
on his own side of the property.
Yes.
Okay. But I
Not,
still think,
not on your side.
all right, imagine, I'm not even 5 foot tall. You are 6, 7, 8 feet tall fence, and I have to walk by it? That's obtrusive, that's terrible.
I was out there. How did the trees get stripped all the way to the bottom on both sides?
A lot of those branches died over the years. You talk about the beginning ones, the first ones when you walk.
I don't think that's any of our concern here tonight. Anything else before I let someone else?
No, I just,
Okay,
how we feel about it.
all right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would also like to speak?
And I have pictures if you want to see the area.
Yeah, we're familiar with it, thank you.
Okay.
My name is Daniel Dowd. I live at 2443 Wilson Point Road, a couple houses down. And my concern is primarily for fences. There's 11 of us that live on Wilson Point Road. To my recollection, there's only 2 privacy fences. One on either side agreed to it, and it was way back. It didn't obstruct any views. They had a hearing like this. I didn't go to it because the people agreed to it. My concern is the views, particularly views of the lake. My concern is also precedent that might be kind of difficult. 4 foot is fine. This is 6 foot, okay? 8 foot is a foot over the top of my hand. I had to look that up because I'm not the smartest. But what it does is, if people can put that up, obstruct views, I think 4 foot is sufficient. If they had to go to 6, fine, but 4 foot, it's a, we live there because of the views of the lake. We just don't want it disturbed if we can. That's all I have.
Okay,
Do you have any questions? Or?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak?
Maureen Sweeney, 2447 Wilson Point Road. From my deck, I can see the lake and I can see part of the area that's talking about, and I'm okay with the fence as long as it does not go beyond if I can approach this area right here, which his gazebo is not even pictured in here. It would be beyond there. So as long as it's back over here.
Yeah.
So this is my view from my deck. There's a stairway going down.
You said what was your house number?
The house
2447.
Okay, so what you're next.
I'm on the left side.
Does this map reflect where you're comfortable?
Yeah, so if you see, I don't know if the stairs are on there, but that, I don't think you can see it as long
You
as.
went back.
Sorry.
Cause can you see the gazebo from your deck?
Nope.
Okay, cause that's back,
Yep.
okay.
So there's, and this is my hedgerow, so there I have an arborvitae row off, so it would be behind my arborvitae. Yeah, behind his garage is my hedgerow.
Right.
I don't see how it affects it.
Any concerns about
that's
height?
No, I don't think I would see it.
If the fence stops right here.
if it's
back.
back here.
Right. Yes, Larry.
I just went in the office and measured it. It appears that his fence, as drawn, is about 11 feet off the corner of the gazebo,
Towards the road.
towards the road.
Okay.
So well inside lake sight lines. And it's well back all the way, so there's no.
Because his house goes out way beyond the gazebo.
Mark, why not take down the trees, put in a new road 2 feet closer to your property line? We're gonna put the fence
Cost me
in.
thousands of dollars to take these trees down.
I needed to hear you say that.
And the trees are still alive.
Yes.
Is there anyone else here to speak? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Does the board have anything else they would like to ask? All right, I'm closing the public hearing. As I said earlier tonight, we will discuss it later tonight. We do have 60 days to make up our mind, and might want to go back out there and just look at the site and take a, we might ask you, mark out exactly where the fence is, but if we do decide, I have no idea yet. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say from the corner? You said what was that?
In my mind, it sounds like the lake lot, the variance is just going to 6 feet. No. Like I have no problem being 6 feet.
All right, we're ready to discuss the Dollar General. Now, Rich, I don't know if I should have said this in the public hearing, because I was told when we started talking about conflicts of interest and everything. I rent that property from the owner, but I feel that I can make a decision, an unbiased decision. I thought, like in cases like that, you're almost supposed to make a statement along those lines.
Well, I mean, as long as you don't have any beneficial economic interest from the application itself, then.
If the Dollar General isn't there, I'd have another acre of ground farm. It's a pain in the butt.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's up to your discretion.
Yeah, no, like I
That's
said,
a direct
I
conflict, so.
feel that I can make a decision and there's no conflict of interest. I was told that, you should bring up things like that. So, that's come back to haunt you later, maybe, I guess.
You made it public and
Yep.
said that you're inside.
I'd like, as far as I'm not, I'd like those 2 pieces of data that I asked for before I made a decision, only because the whole crux of their reducing it down to 36 was the DOT and DEC requirements.
It's not a requirement, so to be clear, it's not a requirement by DOT and DC, it's a priority for them.
So I would like to see the actual impact, I'd like to read the actual impact of that and how much it is driving them versus their own convenience. And then I'd like to see the data that he was talking about as far as parking lot movement and usage and all that jazz. If we're talking a percentage thing, where he says, because they say confirm, and he kept saying never and always, well then his data should have a 1 and 2 zeros behind it, not 78% of the time or 84% of the time. So,
Well, sort of along the same lines as your concern is what happens when Dollar General no longer wants that property and somebody else wants to look at it.
You're saying it would have more traffic flow or something, you're saying?
They might.
I don't think it's a perfect presentation. That's the bottom line.
Excuse me?
The code exists for a reason, and the code is pointing to the answer, but that's not a good location for that retail.
The 2/3 variance is way too much for me.
When you look at how much property they're not touching on the other side, it would make a whole lot of sense for them to have a loop, to have two driveway cuts. Because when you put that driveway cut directly across from the casino, that's gonna be a light. DOT is gonna require a light.
I don't know if DOT wants them to have 2 driveway cuts.
No, I understand, but for traffic flow, it would make a whole lot more sense for them to have a driveway cut beyond and a traffic light at the main input, and have a 1 in and a 1 out. You have to leave by the light, and you come in at the other entrance. You know, that's not my job though.
Well, I was gonna say it's DOT.
But we're just looking at parking spaces, but I can tell you, the way they got that designed, parking space wise, I don't like it. I will never forget how angry Bob French was when New York State DOT came in and their engineers said, well, it says that the trucks can make this corner at Route 5 in front of Sun Chevy. It says they can make it. Trucks cannot make that turn. They just can't. They go into oncoming traffic every single time, but the engineers said they could. The software said that they could make that turn. So you fill that lot with cars and you have a truck come in, a semi, that has to turn right and then back up, you're gonna end up hitting people's cars. They're gonna end up being stopped, not being able to turn into the actual parking lot.
You can't make
that we can, because that is directly related to the size and design of the parking lot.
Yeah, but it brings into question the skill of the drivers. I mean, we don't have
no.
The 66%. That's what's stuck in my mind, because if we were to apply that same principle to the fence that's in front of us right now as well, we'd be okay to allow a 10-foot fence.
We've given more than 60% on some things before. It depends on the circumstance.
Just for clarification, in terms of the idea that would set a precedent, that's not 100% accurate. So each application is taken on its own. The applicant has to prove its case under the circumstances present on their property, and obviously they're arguing and they're making the statement that, you know, the code as written 109 is too much as a requirement. Our business needs are this much. Your code's this much, and to add parking spaces is a waste of money, resources, and the SWIP issue with the water and the stormwater.
I'm not against, you know, what you're saying, waiting for the stuff, but to say the on time and us time, if we're gonna mix it, you know, if we can mix it tonight, you know, why bother asking for all that? I look at the questions, and like question 1 is whether undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties. And I look at those other 2 offices. I mean, I know you got the casino right across the street, but I go back to those 3 properties. I know one has been vacant for a long time, but the dentist office and the physical therapy, you know, they have really nice properties there. And I think the Dollar General, as it's proposed here, would be a detriment. So that question's no.
So it's a thin pole frame building.
Just for clarification though, like that question is asking, does the variance for parking impact the character of the neighborhood? So does less parking spaces impact the character?
Well,
it's their overall design.
No, I going back, you know, to get the 36, they've got to use every inch of space. You know, if they only had 24, they could put a lawn in front. So I'm saying that because of the parking spaces, to even get that 36, they have to use every bit of possible space along the road.
I understand you're trying to make sure that we answer the question properly, but to your point, those other 2 businesses, the parking lots are removed and up on a hill. So they're a separate item, not right there in front of them. So the building, the parking lot as they have it planned right now would be a break from the other 2 buildings that are already sitting right
So something to keep in mind, and this is why I asked them if they've been in front of the planning board. So you didn't like how they're so close to the road. The design that they have there has not been influenced in any way by the planning board. So Frank and his team, you know, it's appropriate for them in their role to say, look, everything else along Route 5 is this far back from the road. The parking lots are back behind them, you know, to what you were saying. Like, that's the role of the planning board. And the planning board, if they're good, holds their feet to the fire and says, if you want to build this in our community, you're going to do it this way. And that's what the town of Cass's planning board has been fantastic at forcing international corporations to adhere to what they tell them to do, and they've done it. And the Aldi is a perfect example of that. But that's the planning board's role. Our role is to say, is reducing it to 39 appropriate and an acceptable thing to do, assuming that Frank and his team do the best possible job they can with 39 spaces. Is that going to be adequate, and is it appropriate for us to give them that much relief for that parking? And that's why I think you asking for the evidence, you know, they came in with their conclusions. Well, that's great. You might have self-serving conclusions.
Show me your work.
Show us the surveys that came to those conclusions. Show us some of the evidence that comes to that. Because you're saying that you've seen on numerous occasions at the one in town where a lot of the traffic in that store is foot traffic. You know, this one, I can't say nobody. Mayloft Towers is going to walk there, but outside of Mayloft Towers, nobody's going to be walking to that location. That's going to be an entirely parking lot driven location, and the one in the village is not. The one in the village, Manor Drive walks there, Ray Street walks there, North Street, and that's a good amount of their business at that location.
And look at all the customers that are across the street.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of people coming out of the casino who go up there to grab lotto tickets, go up there to grab their cigarettes. No question. No question.
It's a busy little spot.
It's wholly inadequate.
The biggest problem in the Bridgeport store is they can't keep stock. No, they cannot keep stock in the store. It's ridiculous.
Well, with COVID.
That's everything. But you know, you really make a good point. I don't care what stores they show us in New Jersey. I don't care what stores they show us anywhere else in the Northeast. The best store that's a model is the store in Bridgeport, because you have a casino right down the road, and everybody that goes out of there, the first place they can stop on the way back to Onondaga County is that Dollar General. The only thing that's different is you have a Tops Plaza across the street. But I don't think 39 is going to be anywhere near enough. They're coming on snow removal slabs. They just don't get it. We get a heavy snowstorm, people are going to be going there to buy stuff. There's going to be no place for them to go.
And there's no windbreak to the west of them.
No.
None.
No.
It's just going to sweep it. It's going to blow across the parking lot, across the road, and land in there.
Well, what's funny is they probably put the entrance across because DOT is probably going to make them put in a light. And in theory, you would want to shift the store there and put the parking lot on the other side of the store so that the wind is going the other way. But you can't. Because they're not going to let them put an entrance, I don't think, in the middle of the Tops parking lot.
When we have a Shenango Physical Therapy Center, it's coming out 20 feet from all this. I mean, it's not our concern or our issue. It's again a parking space. So, are we gonna table this until we get some more info?
Yep.
Is that what?
I think that's the consensus.
Or no matter how much information we've got, 3 negative votes or not?
I would feel more grounded if I saw their data, so that I could at least say, you're stretching by saying DOT DEC is compelling this process, but I've got enough negatives as we sit here now.
Well, I can go either way.
Here's what I can say. I can say that as presented, I'm a no. Would I go 70? Would I go 60? I know I want to go lower than 50, but I feel a lot better at around 60.
I'd go another row of parking.
Right.
Basically, I think that's another 11 spots.
So that would take them to like 56.
No, that'd be another 22 rows of parking. 11 on each side.
They're saying that if they move it, they got to put a double row in.
Right.
So no matter
And a double row is what they need.
And that'll be for snow storage. When they remove
In the winter,
you know,
now they can lose an entire row to snow, and it's not a big deal. But I think Frank's Frank's been around enough to not take their plan the way they presented it, because what they presented was horrible.
Did you read the planning board's recommendation?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
So I'm looking for a motion to either table it or draw to a vote and see what happens.
I make a motion to vote.
Well, actually, let's go through the worksheet. I'm sorry, get out of order here.
Oh,
All right, is this a type 2
This is an unlisted action.
unlisted?
I got a question. How many of you are willing to grant it if it's a higher number than the 39 asked for?
I would be if it's a higher number.
they'd have to come back with the data I asked and with a different number. I'm not gonna give them a number.
Okay.
That's like the first thing.
They never really mentioned about the hardship of sale either. I mean, that's more of a hardship. I mean, they say that.
It's in their application.
Their application talks about having to dig out the
They
shale.
talked about it, you know.
They talked DOT, DEC, and their own internal data was their reasoning tonight.
Yeah, but the application mentions how to get into the homework.
So you gotta read the questions there. So,
All right.
So just real quick, if we can just go through the environmental assessment form, because this is an unlisted action.
okay.
So on part 2, there's the 11 questions. Whether the proposed action will create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations. Proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity planned. Proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community. Will the proposed action have an impact on critical environmental areas? Will it result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy as it fails to incorporate renewable energy opportunities? Proposed action impact existing public-private water or public-private wastewater? Proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic resources? Will it result in an adverse change to natural resources? Will the proposed action increase potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create an adverse hazard to environmental resources or human health? So the choices are no or small impact or moderate to large impact may occur. Does the board have any disagreement to no or small impacts occurring with respect to each of those issues?
I had previously circled when I was reviewing this. I look at questions number 8, okay? The question was, will the proposed actions result in substantial increase in traffic above present levels? They had checked no. I questioned it. I don't believe that. It's gonna be more traffic in my mind.
Certainly a lot more cross traffic from the one parking lot
Yep.
up to that one.
That's page 2, Rich. Question A, I disagree with their,
So that's on the part 1, so yeah, that's their answer. And part 2, which is the questions that the board's responsible for answering. I don't know if you guys have copies of it.
right, but
Yeah,
I'm
we don't
just
have
giving
that.
their answer.
Yep, and that's fine, yep.
We have copies of part 2.
No, I got extras.
I was trying to look real studious when you were reading that real fast. But
And they also answered 8B, are public transportation services available at or near the proposed action? They answered yes, and once again, I dispute that.
Is there not a central bus station or another bus stop in the area? Like that goes to the casino?
Is there, Larry?
Casino.
Okay, so that's true.
Backside of the casino?
yeah, backside.
It's a long ways away.
So you could end up with people walking across Route 5 to get to it.
I think the way they're, on question 8, part of that is, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic? So is the Dollar General itself a traffic generator, or will existing traffic utilize the store?
It's a traffic generator. It's a destination.
How many times does your wife say, I'm going to the Dollar General?
Right.
Too frickin' many. But I'm
I hear
guilty as well.
it once a week.
Yeah. And it generated the traffic. it generated extra traffic that you wouldn't be going there. The other thing, pedestrian accommodations for bicycle routes available on or near, they checked yes, I question that.
I have no on mine. Just 8C.
8C, oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry. And then on the third page, 17, the stormwater discharges flow to adjacent properties. You can say no, but it's hard to believe. I mean, I know they're gonna have storm.
That's covered all under stormwater.
Right.
Okay.
They can't discharge off property. They have a, on their site plan, they're showing a area reserved for stormwater, so.
Okay, all right.
That's probably why they have it offset to the west.
We want to get to other questions that we were supposed to answer here. So, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? I mean, that is zoned business.
Isn't it zoned agricultural?
No, Larry, look, 300 feet is business, and that goes to MR12. So, am I correct saying the first answer is no?
Yeah, no or small impact.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of the land?
Yes, it's gonna go from agricultural to business.
I would say yes.
It is a change in the use of the land, it's true.
I mean, it is a business, but it is a change.
Yeah.
So that is, so again, the question is whether that is a small or a moderate to large impact. So typically, something of this size would be no, like, or a small impact would occur, because it is zoned for business.
But the actual use of the land
Regardless
is
of
going
how
from
it's currently
ag
being used.
to a retail shop.
Right, but is it a large impact?
Compared to farming?
Yes.
Like the casino, large impact.
Right,
So it's dealing more with like square footage of the building then.
correct.
Okay. So then it's got to be no, because it's not that big of a building.
Generally, this type of project is, in terms of environmental review, under seeker.
Yeah, but we're looking at the change in the use of the land.
But this is for purpose.
It's going from a hayfield to a retail establishment, right?
Yeah, but I'm still a little confused because I still go back, it is zone business, but I also look at the location and I do think what they're doing, taking all the things around it, it is a substantial change, I mean, if it was the business down by Krause's storage shed, where on the other side of town, it really wouldn't be a change at all.
Right. Because it's already a
There,
big parking lot.
So, Rich is our lawyer, and we know how he would answer it.
I still say it's moderate use, moderate change in the use of the land.
I would agree.
And you want to state your case again now, or you're supposed to be also representing us. If we're answering this wrong, try to educate us.
That's fine. There's good discussion. So
Okay.
We're within our rights to say moderate to large.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
Yes.
how is that? Is it a small impact or moderate to large?
I think it's moderate when compared to the other two buildings that you would call its community on that side of the road. If for no other reason than the proximity to the road.
This is gonna be a long night.
So again, like the action is they're requesting a variance for a reduction in parking. So the whole idea is, hey, we're asking for less parking for a Dollar General store. Across the street, you have a.
Hold on, the question though does not ask about the variance. The question asks about the proposed action.
Is the
And
proposed
the proposed
action in this
is what
case-
they showed us tonight.
Well, but the proposed action is that the board has in front of it, that you're taking action on, is a area variance for parking. That's what's an unlisted action.
So the action that's being, the word action in each of these questions is referring to our
It relates
issuance
to the
of
application
variance,
for a variance,
The
correct?
re- the reduction
not the
of
project itself.
The variance itself.
So in other words, you know, they're supposed to have 100 and going down to 36 makes this a whole lot more favorable, so we need to change the answer on the other one. Because if, you know, if they didn't request a variance, they need 100 parking spaces, and that would have a much more impact.
Your moderate to large impacts generally are, like Larry said, it's like if you're building a casino or a Walmart or a dirt track or a 200 unit apartment building, Price Chopper, Wegmans, like, because at the end, when you get to part 3, it's like, if there's large impacts, they have to prepare an environmental impact statement, which is like
Nightmare.
that's like a massive environmental review that typically you see with Walmarts and, industrial facilities and things of that nature.
So when we're talking small or moderate to large here, we're not putting it in the perspective of the other businesses that are on that side of the road, that the standard that they've already been held to. That's not what we're looking at.
Well, you're looking at the existing community, so relative to parking. What is the character of the existing community?
That's my point.
As it relates to this parking variance.
That's my point. If we looked at the other 2 businesses that are on their side of the road, the reason I keep saying their side of the road is because those are 2 businesses that had to build into that hill that they cited in their application. Now, both of those businesses climbed that hill and then put the building and the parking at a higher elevation and recessed from the road. So as you come down the road, you don't have vehicles and buildings sitting right on top of you on the other side of the drainage ditch. So to Steve's point earlier about the character and nature of it being greener and a little more beautiful coming down the road, they're back there, so you've got a little space and a little breathing. Their proposal, so this is why I asked for the perspective. I'm not arguing with you here, but if we're gonna do it only based on the square footage of the building, that's a different animal. But if we're gonna compare it, specifically the parking, to their 2 neighbors that we've already held them to a standard, then what they're asking is a substantial change from the existing community.
I would agree with that statement.
Does their lot go back as far as the other 2?
No, the proposed one isn't as deep as the other 2.
I mean, like the lot itself isn't as deep.
Right. I mean, what you're saying the property they bought.
The property the property that they bought doesn't go as deep as
Correct.
Dan's does it.
There's one map that
So
shows
so they can't go as deep.
I'm sure they could have bought.
Oh, I'm sure they still could.
Yeah.
But they're trying to.
But then you're getting into the hill. I think they probably thought it wasn't no sense because then you would have it dug into a mountain.
Yeah, and you're spending a lot of money. So to do it right, it's going to cost a lot of money. So we're going to try to do it cheap and hope they'll let us do it.
They could have put the store up on the hill the same way that
the other
businesses.
The whole hill changed. No, it's the other 2 buildings.
Have any of you gone to PT at Dan's?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because their parking lot's about 35 spaces. And that's not a retail shop. That's people going in there for their working out and by appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no truckloads that have to do truck deliveries.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so back to this environmental assessment. Is this part 2, is this predicated on the square footage of the building, or is it predicated on how it interacts with the existing community?
It's the proposed action that's referred to in each of the questions is the variance. They're requesting for a parking variance. It's not necessary. I mean, in a way, you have to look at the variance in the context of the community. So will granting less parking than is required under your zoning impair the character or quality of the existing community? That's the question.
Yeah, then I would say no.
Now again, to Mike's point, the planning board has to undertake seeker for purposes of the special use permit.
Right.
Does the way they've designed it, because that's a concern with minimal setback, landscaping, are there mitigations with buffers, trees, etc. Like those are all additional considerations that can, that the planning board is going to look at as well.
Okay, I think for our lesser minds, if we phrased it the way you just did there, where instead of proposed action, where we get confused on what we're talking about or the perspective on it.
Let me say this. You asked them for stuff. You intimated that we were going to punt till at least the next meeting by saying that we have 60 days to decide. I make a motion that we table this application to next month.
Yep.
That we wait until we have the pieces of information from them that Brian requested, and next month we go through seeker and deal with it.
I'll second that motion. I'm assuming that's a motion.
I made it as a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion before we vote? All in favor of
Tabling the application until
tabling.
we receive the
Right.
response from them, hopefully by the next meeting.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Let's get 20 minutes off. Yeah.
Sorry. Probably just saved you 45 minutes though, and it'll go smoother in a month.
Next time, let's not say proposed action, let's just say the granting of less parking spaces.
I know I know this board hasn't had to go through seeker, so I get it.
Alright. So the next one's on
We
you.
just made a motion to table it, Jerry.
Mike made the motion, Terry seconded, it was unanimous.
Alright, so on to the lake.
Okay, take away, Brian.
Alright, so this is a type 2 negative declaration. Yes?
Yes.
Whether undesirable changes will be produced in character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. I'm saying no.
I would say yes, in that there haven't been privacy fences put up without consent of both neighbors in that community. That was mentioned during the public hearing. So this would be a break from tradition if it's granted.
I would agree with Brian and say no, just because the trees are already there, providing blocking any existing view.
Would we say the character of the neighborhood is the existence of fences at all, or the preserving of sightlines? Because where the fence is,
It's neither.
well within the house, it's no obstruction. And he's not even replacing anything with it. He's just adding it behind, from his angle, existing trees. So I don't see how that's a detriment or.
To the benefit of those here, we have a 5-question questionnaire that we sort of fill out. This gives us some data just to help confirm which action we take. And we're discussing the questions right now. So.
Yeah, I still hold no, because it stays within the sight lines of the house.
I would agree with that.
Whether benefits sought by applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance.
Yeah, they could plant another row of cedar trees down through there.
But
I asked about that.
But he said
Considerable
it's cost
expense.
prohibitive.
I asked that.
That's disgusting too.
He
Just saying
indicated.
there is an alternate. It might not be a determining factor,
But the question
there is.
But the question is whether or not the alternate is feasible, and the cost of taking the trees down to replace them makes it a lot more expensive than putting in the fence. That's why I asked him the question what I did, so that we would have.
He's not wrong, but he also hit the nail on the head with not a determining factor.
That was also the recommendation from the planning board. Just,
New cedars, I don't think would grow well with the trees above them. It'll be interesting to see if the trees that are there, leaving them up, how they do with posts going down into the roots.
they're on their way out. They're not in very good health at all.
Whether the requested variance is substantial, we're talking 4 to 6.
You're talking, not height, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You mean 6 to 8, or are you talking from
What,
4 to
move,
6?
I mean, the code is
right,
4,
four.
we're allowing it to go from 4 to 6.
Right.
So,
It's 2 feet of relief. But it's not for the entire length of the fence, right? Because
no,
a
it is.
portion of the fence is in the rear yard.
Right.
Rear yard can be 6 foot.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the drawing, it's
Yeah.
only when you get to the rear corner of the house that it becomes a side yard fence.
You gotta remember, the
Yeah.
lake side is the front yard, the road
Oh,
side
that's
is
right,
the
that's
back.
right, that's right, that's right.
It's reversed.
Yeah, sorry.
On the lake.
So, no, it's not substantial.
6 foot would be allowable for about half of it. And 4 foot is allowed.
So it's a 2 foot, 2 feet of relief in the side yard fence is what I would say. In the past, we haven't said that that's substantial. Just telling you what we said in the past.
So, no. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And then we just had discussion.
We all agree.
It's another reason that, Mike, is that the length is limited to, not the entire length of the side or property line,
About 30 feet.
for a reason that it's not as substantial. I think I heard you say that.
Yep. Mark, have you thought about if those trees get worse and you've got a fence and you've only got a foot on the other side to deal with those trees when they get worse?
A foot on my side or their side?
You'd have a foot on your property on the other side of that fence to try to take down those trees that are damaged right now if you don't take them down first.
If I had to, there was a guy that did some work in our house. He's a landscaper. He has the equipment to take them. He'd take a quarter or half of them down.
From over the tree.
Over the fence.
Over the fence, yeah, over the fence.
And if need be, I know how the fence goes up. There's 4 screws in the posts. You can take those 4 screws out and
Lift
take
the
the whole panel up.
Okay.
And that's an 8-foot panel.
Good.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? No.
Will not block the lake views for.
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created? No.
Nope.
ZBA, after taking into consideration the above 5 factors, finds the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community, and therefore it's approved. I make a motion to approve this variance.
At a height of no more than 6
At a height of no more than 6 feet.
You got it down.
Well, we're only giving 2 feet of relief in the side.
I did write
Side
that
yard.
earlier, yeah.
So just having that means that it's a 6 foot.
I'll put that in the conditions as well.
The other condition to mention is, I mean, is this, Larry, is this officially part of the application?
Yes.
So where it shows it starting substantially behind the gazebo is already part of the application, right? So you don't need to put that down as a condition, it's already the application.
Cause I would wanna know where the fence is gonna stop and where it's gonna begin.
Right.
So,
And that's
And
on,
you're comfortable with what we know.
I think Larry had said it's approximately 11 feet off that corner
of the gazebo.
of the gazebo, so
Yeah.
you could reflect that in your decision as a condition.
You wanna make a note of that, Brian?
What's that?
That the fence can be no closer than 11 feet to the gazebo, basically. The starting point, or the finishing point, I don't know which is the starting, which is the finishing point.
On the roadside too, on the Wilson Point roadside.
Wait, 11 feet from the front of the gazebo, 11 feet from the back of the gazebo.
Don't
From the
confuse
southeast
front and back.
corner, right, I think it is.
Yeah, that's the southeast corner of the gazebo. 11 feet from the southeast corner of the gazebo.
Yes, because the lakes, that's the outside of the lakes.
I'm not worried about this.
Do we have a second? We didn't get a second yet, did
Is
we?
there any condition on the, how many feet it is off the property line? I think he had indicated he was planning on 2 feet.
No, farther than that with the trees, but I
Oh, was it?
you know, you can't be closer to one, and he did say that he wasn't gonna, go that.
It's gotta be
close.
1 foot off the property line minimum, and the trees are already 1 foot off the property line,
Right.
so it's gonna have to be more than a
Right,
foot.
so no, he can determine where it goes, as long as he follows the code. Did we still not get a second here?
I seconded.
You did, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the application, signify by saying aye.
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 Nope.
And then what were you, Brian?
I said aye.
All right, so the application was approved.
Did you get your place?
Guys wanna take a look at the,
I read the minutes.
I did too.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second them.
Nice job getting those amendments out of that resolution.
It was a really nice minutes too. They were good.
Thanks. I had some help from it.
It was, yep, it was very well spelled out.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Sorry you had to sit through the Dollar General discussion.
No, I had to ask him where he was putting it. And I had no idea where he was putting it, because they have the little one down below.
Right.
Yeah, will they, the question in my mind is, will they abandon the one on the east side of town?
Different developer. Different franchisee.
I'll go with those.
So, DGs are not all by the same person.
They're not.
No.
all right,
No, it's
so,
one entity, but they'll franchise to different
We
individual.
can
Let's-
close this out.
yes,
Thank you for saying. Thank you.
do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
I made the motion.
I seconded it.
Rick seconded.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as written, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, you can turn the cameras on.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Brian. All those in favor?